What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm No Strike Button today, joined by a very special guest, a man that has taught me a lot in this industry. The man that has taught me that inside and outside the field, there's plenty to do and plenty of people to talk to. Very excited to have him. You can find all his work at collegetopro.com. The one, the only, Bo Marciani. Bo, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it,
Noah,
bro.
thank you. I'm excited to join you. I know this is a great pod and excited to be on it.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into some stuff. I feel like it was an uneventful week for the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of on-field action, and very eventful in terms of off-field action. And there's stuff to talk about, whether it's contracts or signings or injuries or whatever. And then there's football tomorrow night that I think the timing is wild, first of all, for all of this to happen 2 days before a game.
Yeah.
But you can't ignore that there's a game, and I'm pretty excited for it. I'll ask you that first before we dive into some real stuff. How fired up are you to watch some Pittsburgh Steelers football in action on Saturday night?
Yeah, the momentum of, you get the OTAs or mini camp and you start getting that taste. It's like an appetizer. In a couple of days of that, you're already satisfied. You're full of it. And then you want to see them in pads. Then you want to see them tackling. And once you get to that point where you're seeing them hit each other, you want to go see them hit somebody else. And that's what they're going to do tomorrow night. But yeah, in Jacksonville, and exciting times. As well as anybody, you're there every day. There's always a buzz, but I think the buzz around the Steelers at camp this year is particularly high. We joked around that Tomlin said that we were asking good questions. You get the sense defensively that these guys know that they're on the cusp of being something special. Yeah. And as bad as the offense has been over the years, even if it's mediocre, I mean, they finished 16th in points last year. Even if they finish 15th, which isn't good, it's middle of the pack, but it's still better than last year. And I think those are all signs that point to a better team overall. How far that goes in the playoffs, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that one. I'll ask you this before we start talking headlines here. Do you think that there's any chance when you describe the Steelers offense right now? Everybody talks defense, it's elite. There's really no surprises. It's going to be scary good, very exciting stuff. Yeah. On the offensive side of the ball, there's these notions out there. Aaron Rodgers might have the fastest release time ever because he's going to be throwing to tight ends every single play. They're going to be run heavy. This is going to be a ground and pound team. Do you think there's any chance that they go out there, even if it's not tomorrow, but week one, and kind of stun us with the way that they approach the offensive side of the ball?
I talked to Mason McCormick yesterday. I said, what's the identity of the team? And he said, we want to be the most physical team in the league. And that's a great perception. I mean, you want to see these guys go down to Jacksonville, and if the starters are out, you want to see the second stringers blowing these Jacksonville guys off the ball and then picking bigger chunks of yards. It doesn't matter if it's Warren, Caleb Johnson, Lou Nichols, Trey Sermon, you go down the list. You want to see these guys dominate. But I'm questionable on that. It's a young offensive line. We still don't, at least I don't think we know what we have in Broderick Jones. I love him as a player, but the ability to be consistent on an elite level, to me, he's the most important young Steeler on the entire roster. I mean, this is a franchise type left tackle. And we could worry about quarterback because we're probably going to need one next year. But nonetheless, you might not have a left tackle or a quarterback going into 2026. So I think Broderick Jones' development is incredibly huge for the overall success of this team. So, tomorrow, you want to see this team and Noah, not, I guess it's on the topic, but not, I still think they need a number two. I have the numbers here. If you take Miller, Calvin Austin's the only receiver on the team last year that caught a touchdown pass, absent of DK Metcalf. And so I think receiver wise, we watched Scotty Miller. He looks great in camp. You watch Benny Sco, he looks great. But these guys, I mean, when I'm looking at the numbers, Brandon Johnson had one catch for 9 yards. Collectively, that group, 67 catches, 898 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Jamar Chase has that by week 6 by himself.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I just think it's a little bit foolish to daydream. We did the same thing last year with the receivers, thinking that this, miraculously is going to become some, institute for developing stud guys that have never produced. On the flip side, though, they probably arguably have the best tight end room in the NFL. I mean, that I think you can argue with anybody. So I think what we lack at number 2 receiver, we make up for in tight end. And, if you want to have a bit physical offense, as Mason McCormick said, then, it's probably helpful to have a, left tackle playing tight end and some of the best hands at the tight end position too.
It is very true. When we get into players to watch later, Darnell Washington, and just the way he kind of will beat people up and at the same time catch the football this offseason or this preseason is what I'm looking for, because I mean, he's looked very good. But I agree with you on both fronts. Broderick Jones is as big as it gets, a wide receiver too. I've been pushing for that since day one of training camp. I came in here with an open mind of, we'll see what happens. We'll see how good Calvin Austin is. Obviously, Roman Wilson could burst onto the scene. Yeah, we haven't seen any of that. And if we saw it, it'd be awesome. But Scotty Miller's the second best wide receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, and that's not a number 2 wide receiver. So I hear you. The Broderick Jones thing is very interesting. They signed Andrus Piat yesterday. I, like Mike Tomlin, not great at names. And a 3-time Pro Bowler, spent a lot of his career at left guard, but I talked to him yesterday. A bunch of us did. And he said, I've played left tackle plenty. I'm fine on the left tackle position. I feel comfortable there. Isn't much of a swing guy. Said he's open to it, but he's definitely more comfortable on the left side than he is the right side. Is there anything in your mind right now? Not today, and not during the preseason. And it wouldn't happen before week 1 by no means. But do you think that this is the first real opportunity where maybe Broderick kind of has to get better? Like, he can't continue to look as bad as he's looked. Otherwise, Dylan Cook and Calvin Anderson would never replace Broderick Jones. Does he change that for the first time? And again, it won't happen anytime soon, but does he change the possibility of that ever happening?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, he was with the Raiders last year, and the Raiders had one of the worst offensive lines in the league.
True.
So I think if he was a impactful guy, he would have, there'd have been somebody the Raiders wanted to keep on the team, especially with Brady kind of being involved. They bring in a Pete Carroll who kind of, a cultural guy where they want to reset the whole culture of that Raiders organization. So I think if you have a guy in Piet that is a foundation guy, or at least a guy you can build the line off of, then you keep him. And I think picking him up on August 7th is a little bit of a sign of, this is great. And, he has a first round pedigree and 3 Pro Bowls, but, are we getting that guy? And that, I don't know. And I don't know if he has the ability to push even Broderick Jones or Dylan Cook. I have to see him play, and I'm not going to lie. I'm not, I remember him coming out in the draft and seeing him in, the highlights of his year, but, and this is where this is where it could get ugly in Pittsburgh. I mean, you look at this team and Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey, and you bring in Aaron Rodgers, you bring in, Pete yesterday. 5 years ago, you wouldn't be able to afford this team. Now these guys are kind of in the twilights of their career, and you're hoping for a lot,
Yep.
I mean, so there's a lot of what ifs. I always say, like, you're at Philadelphia, you're watching their camp. It's really not what if, it's let's just not get hurt.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, in Pittsburgh, we need a number 2. What if? Is the quarterback going to be healthy enough? Is the line going to gel? Is the defense, the defense does look killer. But, those are the things that scare me. And listen, I want to see this team go undefeated. I want to see them win the Super Bowl because I want to go party, in the Super Bowl town with the team. So I'm all aboard that train. Yeah. I'm reluctant just to probably think I'm going to be at a bar on Super Bowl Sunday watching 2 other teams play and none of them being the Steelers. So
I agree. Like, I definitely agree. This is, and we do this thing, especially in Pittsburgh, where we convince ourselves that everything's fine. You know what I mean? Last year, Van Jefferson's catching 400 balls after practice every day. I mean, he's going to be able to catch the football. You can't catch the football if you're not open. You know what I mean? A couple years before that, Trey Turner, dude, veteran guy. He's going to be just fine as the starting guard of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I agree. And the what ifs are large. I'm with you. I want to see him play. I think that's step one, and I don't expect to see him much during the first preseason game. Maybe the second one, he takes another step forward and he's kind of more involved in the offense. But I do think that, it's a surprising name for sure. The fact that he didn't get signed is also very alarming. I agree with that one. But your left tackle looks bad. You're in trouble. You know what I mean? You could have 3 good wide receivers and 1 good wide receiver, or 3 good tight ends and 1 good wide receiver, and make it work somehow. You have 1 bad left tackle and nobody to replace them. You're in, you are in a lot of trouble. And it's the biggest what if, just like you said. Let's talk Cam and Boz real fast. Yeah. Yesterday, the news came out there. The top two players, I mean, potentially at their position, let's be honest. Chris Boswell is the best kicker in the NFL. Cam Hayward's probably top 5 defensive tackle for the last 5-6 years in the NFL. Both of them want more money. I look at them in two totally different lights. Chris Boswell is the least paid kicker in the AFC North. He deserves more money. You give him more money. He's the best kicker in the NFL. Cam Hayward, a year ago, we went through this, and the argument was you pay Cam. Cam's a one helmet guy. You give him that contract. Stop making this dramatic. Sign him to a deal. Give him what he wants. That's how you do it. That's how you end Cam's career. A year later, to go back on it, I think stirs the pot in a different way, and is definitely being taken in a different light from the fan base than it was a year ago. What's your thoughts on both of these? Do you look at them in different lights like I do? Do you look at them in the same light? And how do you think you'd resolve these things?
No, I echo everything you just said in terms of how you look at each one of these requests by the players to get a little bit more money in their pocket. I mean, Chris Boswell, I think the Steelers scored like 380 points last year, 16th in the league. And I don't know how many field goals he made, but he made the most field goals in the league with 41. So add those up in the extra points. I mean, he was the offense. And if you're a Steelers fan, that you're sitting there on a Sunday and they can't get a touchdown, they're going to Boswell. And you're getting your 3, and then you're going to 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and they win 18-14. Yes. So it's imperative, I think, you give them the money. I went to Spot Track because you mentioned that we were going to be talking about him earlier today. And the market value for Boswell is $6.1 million. He currently 4.7, I think, this year, 4.8 next year. So I think it's, he's due that money, and he's been a clutch picker for this team, every season. So I think it's imperative that they sign him. I think the timing's a little off. You kind of put the team behind the 8 ball here. And when both of these came out yesterday while we were at practice, Cam and then Bosworth, you wonder behind the scenes if these have been lingering contract negotiations that we've never heard about. And it's finally to the point where maybe the player hasn't got any momentum towards their side, and they decided to make it a public thing. Now it's in the public. Now we're talking about it. If you would have had me on the podcast yesterday morning, we're not talking about either one of these things because the news didn't break. So I wonder how behind the scenes, how long these have been going on. I just think it's kind of strange that Boswell asked for a contract extension on, August 7th. You think this would be something that happened very early. And then on the Cam side, I agree with you. And in my opinion, and listen, there's a lot of people smarter than me, but I think Cam is the epitome of team leader, ultimate warrior, the last of the Mohicans, if you will. Yes. He gets it. Win or loss, this guy is a true character of what it means to be a team leader. That said, you got your bump last year, and I think he's 36.
36 years old. That's
a tricky one. And I don't know where to go with it. I look at this if I'm the Steelers, is what I'm thinking. Aaron Rodgers said he's playing for one more year. Now he could change his mind. We don't know how good he's going to play. We don't know what Broderick Jones is going to do. So those are two glaring what ifs going into 2026. Mm-hmm. If you have no success with either one of those positions, going into next year to think that Steelers are going to be a really good football team without a quarterback or a left tackle, why are you going to pay a 37-year-old defensive end any more money? It's not going to matter. So that's the way I look at it. But I'm asking you, how does this end? If you're asking midway before the 2 days before the first preseason game that you want to bump, there's not a lot of wiggle room. Do you not come to work anymore because you're not happy? I've never seen a player just say, I'm never going to come back. And I doubt that happens. So I guess they get a little bump. They're going to get a little cheese on the sandwich is the best way to explain it.
I agree. I think both guys get paid. I think that's how this thing ends. But it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't. Maybe a little bit. I wouldn't lean this way. But again, it wouldn't be stunning if Cam Hayward's just pissed off all season if they don't pay him. Because what are you going to do? You're not going to hold out at 36 years old. You're not going to just not play and be like, I'll be back next year. No, you won't. You'll be 37. You're not going to do that. It's a weird, it's not the right time in your career to. You can't hardball these negotiations. You can't, which is again, the other side of it. Everybody keeps asking, Like, how did nobody know about this? Because a 36-year-old who's dressed every day for practice, who's doing individual drills, and then hanging out on the sidelines is not an alarming thing. It's like don't put Cam on the field. There's no reason for Cam to go through his 15th training camp in Latrobe. There's just no reason for that. So I agree with you. I think both guys get paid.
Yeah, they do.
Boz is the easiest thing ever. Like, especially it's $2 million. Go give him $2 million. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that hard of a thing to do. It doesn't hurt your cap space at all over the next 2 years, and he's worth every penny. I do agree with you with like the Cam. It doesn't affect anything. You pay him and you just avoid it. I think it's more of like for who Cam is, who Cam's been for however long is his whole career pretty much. To do this 2 days before the preseason is just a weird one. It's just a very strange, like
it's very uncam-like.
Very uncam-like, which is, just, again, it's hard to react to because it's just so off brand. But I agree with you. I think that Cam gets another $2 million a year, $3 million a year, something like that. And you just make it fine. And here you go. Sounds good. Enjoy the last 2 years of your career. And Boz you pay with ease, but it for a Steelers team that is very, very all in right now, it's the weirdest two players to have cause like distractions, I guess. Cam's is a distraction. I think I think Boz's agent, I'm under the conspiracy theory that Boz's agent saw it and went, oh, whoa, hold up. we also want more money. That would be awesome. And send a text to Adam Schefter. I think that's how it went down. But yeah, I do think they get paid. I don't know. I think that's how this goes down, and we'll see what they'll be on the field in week 1. You know what I mean? That's the thing. And Boz isn't going to be on the field before week 1. Cam isn't either, but Boz doesn't even kick it. Like I remember talking to Boz one time, and he was like, "Yeah, man, on a day where I golf more than I kick footballs is a good day for me football wise." I'm like, I trust you, but that's the wildest thing I've ever heard. Like that is a life that only Chris Boswell gets to live. Yeah, I agree with that one. All right, let's close it out by talking about the game tomorrow. Jacksonville, Travis Hunter and Travis Hunter, Trevor Lawrence. Wow, that's awful. Shout out to Jacksonville. Taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers tomorrow. Mason Rudolph. There's a lengthy list of guys that are not playing. For those of you who missed it, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Warren, DK Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, Isaac Seumalo, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, Patrick Queen, Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Ramsey, Deshaun Elliott, Chris Boswell, most likely Calvin Austin as well, who hasn't practiced in over a week. Those guys aside, because they will not be taking the field, who are you looking for? Who's the guys that you have your eye on that you are very excited to see in action tomorrow night?
Well, before we just get into guys that we want to see, I think we just have to give a big shout out to Cole Holcomb, who missed the entire 2024 season, half of 23 after just a catastrophic knee injury. And I know he's excited to play in a preseason game. So I just kudos, a long rehab. And I know he's jacked up to get in tomorrow night and just be back on the field against an opponent. So big shout out to Cole Holcomb. And then just other guys on the team. I mean, I think you got to go to the number 1 pick in Derek Harmon. I mean, his calling card to the National Football League was his bend and his size at 6'4", 313. This kid's violent off the ball. He fires off the snap. And when you get him going, you see something special in 99. Now, we've seen it. At least I think I've seen it during camp and et cetera, through all the practices that we've watched. But I think tomorrow night you want to see 99, show his grit and be a guy that has a little impact. And he doesn't need to get 7 sacks, but you just want to see him push the defender off or the line off the ball, apply some pressure, get in Lawrence's face, and just, kind of have some momentum to build into preseason 2-3 and then eventually into the season. And then I just think when you look at the team overall, Mason, you just want to see him play well. And then, I think the big thing, we all wanted to see Will Howard. And I'm not one of those guys that think Will Howard's the future. If you're one of those Steeler fans that thinks Will Howard's the future, I'm not here to say he's not. But real quick stat for you. And the AFC projected starting quarterbacks, 15 of the 16 teams have a number 1 starting quarterback. In the NFC, 4 teams do not have a number 1 quarterback. So out of 32 teams in the National Football League, 27 of those teams have a projected number 1 quarterback as the starter. And we can go through the Tom Brady's and the Brock Purdy's. Those are like hitting the lottery. That's like Halle Berry calling me up and asking me if she wants to go to Panera for lunch. It's very rare, and I can tell you it's never going to happen. So from that aspect, this is not a Will Howard hate thing. It's just a reality thing. And it's just the way it is. Teams they discriminate against non-ones. And that's just a fact. You look at Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, they had a bad, if Dak was a number one pick, he gets a contract from the Cowboys like that. He's a 4th round guy. So like, oh man, you don't have the pedigree of a 1. And that's why we kind of linger. So Will Howard, love what he looks like. He looks the part, comes across as the guy, national championship, elite college. All those pedigree are great. But again, that 6th round is going to be something that haunts him. But we're not going to see him tomorrow. Some other guys, I just want to see the line. And I don't care who's playing the line, because eventually, linemen, it's a carousel of guys missing the season. I just want to see I want to see the offense. I want to see the line, as Mason McCormick described it, you've been the most physical in the league. And I want to see that line. I don't care if it's the threes playing the threes in the 4th quarter tomorrow night. I want to see an aggressive offensive line, giving it to the Jacksonville Jaguars and, putting them into submission. And then we want to see everybody do well. But I think Harmon's the key. He's your 1st round pick. Yeah. And then I think the line, overall, and again, you want to see that line gel and really dominate early.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the offensive lines, that's the biggest one. You could talk wide receiver 2 all day. It's the offensive line. If the offensive line's great, which they have, like everybody talks about the downside of the offensive line. Everybody wants to talk, oh, Broderick stinks. Zach Frazier's snapping balls on the ground. Like the backup center's breaking Will Howard's hand. This is, there's just all this nonsense. Zach Frazier, I think, is going to be a freak in the NFL. That guy is a monster. Mason McCormick looks great at training camp. I think he's the most overlooked guy on the offense because of how good he looks. And Troy Fautanu is the same way. Like Troy's a health thing. You got to stay healthy, but I think he looks incredible so far. The offensive line, if the offensive line is good, the Steelers they could work so many other things out. You give Aaron Rodgers time in the backfield, I bet you he can make something work. He could be throwing to Ben Skoranek and Darnell Washington every week, and I still think he could figure something out. And then you have a running game, which I have a lot of faith in Jaylen Warren, and Caleb Johnson's looked impressive too. And Kenny G, I think, is very underrated. I don't think he's a superstar, but I think he's so underrated. The offensive line plays such a big role into how good the floor is for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I agree with that one. And Derek Harmon's a big one too. On the other side of him, Y.E. Black. I'm so excited to see Y.E. Black. Just because the evolution of the Y.E. Black train was batted a couple of balls down the first week of camp, and you're like, oh, okay, but there are no pads on. Everything's fine. And then it's just been every day, 2 batted balls, 3 batted balls, blocked field goal, another batted ball. And you're like, this is a freak. How do you do this? And, I'm very excited to see what he could do in a live game action. For me, and to bounce off Cole Holcomb as well, definitely Cole Holcomb. That's a big one for me because I think people are overlooking him right now as an impact to the defense. And he's looked very physical at training camp, which I think is good. And he looked good before the injury. It's a devastating injury, but I had a lot of faith in him. I got 2, I think, real easy ones here, and that's Caleb Johnson because give me Caleb Johnson all day. I just want to know.
He looks beautiful. He looks good.
He looks so good, and there are days where the running game doesn't look good, and you're going, but the Steelers' defense is so good that you're just like maybe that's the excuse there. Caleb Johnson's huge for me, and then on the other one, Roman Wilson. If Calvin and DK aren't going to play, everybody wants to keep talking about Roman. Everybody wants to keep hyping up Roman. Everybody in that Steelers organization is a big, giant cheerleader for Roman Wilson. And I think he's got talent, but he's got to be able to put it on the field. He's got to be able to really look, not just like another one, because they have other ones. They have the Rock Taylor and the Scotty Miller and the Brandon Johnson and the Ben Skoranek, just guys that could catch passes. Awesome. Be somebody better than that. And I think this is a massive opportunity because Mason Rudolph's going to be looking to show that he's very good at 29, 30 years old, because I think he came in here hoping to be the starter and is always trying to prove to other teams that he is a starter. And the Pittsburgh Steelers at the same time, they're going to need a quarterback next year. And he's going to be throwing the football. And I think Roman Wilson's going to be his top target. So those are my 2. I think they're, I'm just more excited. It has nothing to do with the development of the team. It's just more so how good are these guys compared to how good they've been at training camp.
I think I think Roman's looked fantastic this season. Like last year, he never popped in my mind. You know, when we were down on the south side, you know, I just never saw 10. You see Kaleb Johnson, you're like, wow. You know, you see guys flash a little bit. He just never flashed for me. But I think this summer, I mean, I think number 10 has, you know, looked the part. You know, he's made some great catches in camp, and that's all you can ask for. So I am on the, you know, the arrows pointing up on Roman Wilson. Again, I don't know if he becomes a 2. You know, and when I think of 2, I'm thinking, you know, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, and then you got Jamar Chase sitting on the other side. You know, and I don't know how, you know, the audience of this show, but, you know, you go back to the Rams back in the day, you had Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, and then Oz Hakeem. Hakeem was never a 1, but he had Falk in the backfield. You had Orlando Pace, you have Kurt Warner, and then you have Bruce and Holt on the edges. So, you know, it makes that guy good. I think if they can get a really good 2, and you throw Roman in there, Austin, and then Darnell, I mean, you know, then you're like a plethora of crazy weapons. But that's not the case. So we're hoping that we're stuck in the moment that Roman Wilson has to be the 2, or pretty darn close to a 2, which that's a big ask.
It's a huge ask. It's a huge ask. Let me ask this hypothetical. You think what's your 1 to 100% chance the Pittsburgh Steelers add a wide receiver before week 1?
I think it's pretty good. I'll say 75%.
Ooh, really? You got a prediction on a name here? This is not a report. This is a straight prediction.
Yeah. Say Romeo Doubs, Green Bay Packers or something.
I like that one. Is it 1 to 10 chance that it's Terry McLaurin?
I don't know. You know what? Omar Khan, dude, he's a gunslinger, dude. I mean, you know, I love Kevin Colbert, but, you know, he was the old way. You know, we don't do nothing. I mean, Omar's come in and be like, you know what? Dang it. You know, last summer, every day in training camp, are they going to get Ayuk? They're going to get Ayuk. And we've seen him. I mean, he's going to wheel and deal and bring in guys. So with Omar Khan at the helm currently, I wouldn't rule out anybody, but I think any deal is possible. Now, you know, with the Terry McLaurin thing, you know, you got to give up something. I don't know if they want to, you know, so, you know, who do they give up? That would be the big question mark. I don't think Washington would want to just give him up straight for picks, but hey, I don't know, you know, what it would take, but yeah, I think that, you know what? And the one thing, it's funny, is teams always need receivers, but that's the one thing that you can always find on the market. You think of the big name guys that have been shopped around, and, you know, I mean, AJ Brown, Brandon Ayuk, you know, we're talking about McLaurin now, you know, Tyreek Hill. I mean, this is a Super Bowl Chiefs team that gets rid of their 1, you know, so that's, I mean, you know, you just don't do that, but that's the receiver position. So I wouldn't be shocked. No, again, I'm going to go 75%. If I'm wrong, it doesn't matter. If I'm right, nobody's going to remember it anyway. So
I love the 75%. I agree with you, though. I think that it's there. I also think we don't even know names yet. You know, I still remember I was getting lunch when DeAndre Hopkins got traded to the Cardinals, and I was sitting there going, the hell just happened here? Where did that come from?
Huge name. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, the Hopster,
in his prime.
I mean, that's nuts. Yeah, in his prime. Yeah, not, you know, 38,000-year-old DeAndre Hopkins. This was a guy in his prime, and it just shows you. But yeah, with Omar Khan, I think anything's possible in terms of them acquiring or you know, setting a player away. But yeah, I think it's possible. But, and you know what, guys, and Tomlin's talked about it. I don't think he shied away from it. You know, this is what they're here in camp to do. You know, that scouting department is going over that film every single day. And they're saying, hey, do we have what it takes? Do we need help on the outside? Do we need help at the X? Do we need help at the Y? You know, where are we going to go? How are we going to be with this team? Do we have the substance right now on this roster to be good for 2025? And if they don't feel that's adequate enough, then you will see Omar make a move and try to acquire a guy that he thinks can upgrade that number 2 position.
Yeah.
That's in a nutshell, really.
He's pretty good at it. That's the craziest part, is he's pretty there's been very limited moves where you sit there. Even the Jalen Ramsey from Minka thing, like that was on the surface, everybody's going, I don't know, man, Jalen might not be that good. Whoever those people were, I was included probably, idiots, because he is fantastic. And what he's done immediately for the Steelers defense is crazy. So even the big crazy ones, Omar seems to walk away with some, you know, little boost, little victory here that I think the Steelers could lean on. All right, Bo, I won't hold you up any longer. I appreciate you coming on. I'll ask you one final question here. Okay. Going into tomorrow, who's your prediction for preseason star for the Pittsburgh? We've had some great ones. Okay. Somebody tossed out the name Rico Dowdle to me yesterday. Or did I get that one right? Rico. Yeah. The other day. And I went, man, what a dude. We were talking Tuzar Skipper stories on the sideline the other day. Like, they're all out there. Who's your prediction for a preseason star for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year?
Tomorrow?
Just overall, by the end of this 3-game stretch, who's the guy everybody loves? Everybody loves him.
I'm going to say Roman.
Oh, I like Roman. That's a good one. That's a surprising name, to be honest with you. That's a very good. I thought for sure like Deshaun Jameson was coming out here. Rock Taylor was going to get put on it. And Scotty Miller. No, Roman Wilson's. That's the best one they could ask for.
Yeah, and that's what you want to see. Yeah, it's a good thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's a good thing for me because I said his name. So.
Yeah, I love it. All right, brother. I appreciate you. Everybody, go find Bo's work at collegetopro.com. I'll give you a minute here just to kind of plug where everybody can find you besides there.
All right. My name, Bo Marchanti at Twitter, if you want to follow me there, and then college2pro.com. We do a lot of draft stuff, or a draft site basically, but we cover the team, cover the league, College 2 Pro. So we try to have it covered in that aspect. But nonetheless, our gracious host, our kick butt host, Noah, he's the man, guys. I'm telling you, this kid got an awesome vibe to you. Noah, this pod's kicking, you know what? And you're doing the same. So, man, just appreciate starting my Friday off with your beautiful face, man. It's a way to start the day.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much for coming on. For everybody else, make sure to go check them out everywhere. And we'll be right back on the other side of this. We'll start answering questions.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes Black and Gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
All righty. Shout out to Bo one more time. Everybody, please go make sure that you check out his work at collegetopro.com. He's the man. Can't tell you enough about my dude, Bo. Taught me so much in this industry. Very grateful for him. Still very grateful for him. Have been very grateful for him. And he's the greatest life of the party you'll ever meet. I promise you on that one. With that said, let's start answering questions to close out this Friday before we dive into Pittsburgh Steelers, Jacksonville Jaguars tomorrow. I'm so excited. It is an away game. I will not be there. I'll have the walkover in the morning. If we got time throughout the day and beforehand, I'll try to jump on a live stream. Can't promise anything, but would love to answer some questions before we do that. With that said, shout out our super chatters, shout out our members. Let's get into it. M. Lowry becoming a YouTube member. Thank you. Make sure you're calling into the Wednesday call-in show. Can't thank you guys enough. And there is someone looking for sure here. Derek, does anyone know why I can't become a member? I've been looking for the button forever. It's in the link in the description of the video right now below. It'll also be in the audio. If you click it, it'll take you right to it'll look like the YouTube page, but it'll be the membership tab. So it'll be open. All you have to do is hit become a member, join AST Nation or whatever it says, and go from there. It should pop up. If not, I apologize, but we'll figure it out. Hit me up, DM me somewhere, and I'll try to get it to you. Logan, hypothetical. Cam Hayward for Terry McLaurin. If you were Omar Khan, no. I mean, the answer is no. Cam Hayward might be, causing a little bit of drama right now, and maybe not in the best of graces of the fan base, but at the same time, he's still an all-pro defensive tackle at 36 years old. He's a key member of a fantastic defense that you are working with right now. You don't screw that up. It's like the Alex Highsmith trade. It's like the, Joey Porter. I've seen the craziest of trades so far, but it's like those ones. You're not giving up these big names on defense to improve your offense because you're just balancing it out. You don't want that. Your defense is elite right now. Keep it elite. I don't think they do it. Maybe, but I just don't think that it would have to get so dramatic and be so bad in such a sour place for the Pittsburgh Steelers to make that one work and to pull that off. Macaroni salad, 6 and counting. Crazy, crazy times. Anybody who wants to become a member, please do. Can't thank you guys enough. Dominic, aka Draft Salad. Noah had to change the name for the boys. Do you think, with Arch confirming coming out in 2027, that the Steelers can draft a tackle this year in Pittsburgh? Oh man, that's so tough. Okay, let's break down a hypothetical of where this could become a situation. Do I think so? No. I still would guess I'd put my money on. I would predict that the Pittsburgh Steelers draft a quarterback in the first round of the NFL draft next year. Okay? That's my prediction. That's not going to change. The only way it does change is this. The Pittsburgh Steelers get real close to the Super Bowl. They win 11, 12 games. Aaron Rodgers looks good. The offense looks okay. They beat somebody in the playoffs, and they look fine. Then they lose in the divisional round, the AFC Championship, something. Aaron Rodgers says, I'm coming back. One more. Let's ride. Let's do it. And the Pittsburgh Steelers go, all right, let's go all in. Let's see if we could do this. Let's see if we could pull it off. And by doing that, they draft a tackle. They draft a wide receiver. They draft this. They draft that. They draft something that's not a quarterback to help immediately with the team. If that's the case, I could see that happening. And then they wait for 2027 to draft a quarterback. I still think Arch is the first pick in the draft. And I don't think you're going to ever get the first pick in the draft if you're the Steelers, but I think you'll get top 10. And I think top 10 is doable to get somebody. I would still predict that a quarterback is the first pick in 2026. The situation I just laid out would be the reason I said, maybe there's a different opportunity here. That's how it would happen. Too many hurt at practice. What's your worst and best expectation for tomorrow? Okay, so I'll give you my worst, my best, and my realistic expectation for tomorrow. My worst is that the Steelers get smoked, that, Mason Rudolph doesn't look good, and Roman looks terrible. Darnell looks terrible. Kaleb Johnson looks terrible. The defense, even with the backup corners, just gets blown off the ball every single time. Derek Harmon doesn't look good, and the offensive line sucks. That's the worst case scenario. And it would be bad. The whole season's over at that point. My best expectation is the defense looks so crazy good, and Roman catches 2 touchdowns, and Kaleb Johnson looks like a freak. That's the best case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers, to say, all right, there it is. Let's do it. My realistic expectation is that the Jaguars are starting their starters and the Steelers are not. And that leans very, very heavily in the Jacksonville Jaguars side of things. And they're going to take advantage of that. And I realistically expect the first team defense, even without the starting corners and the starting secondary, to look pretty okay. But I expect the Steelers to lose to the Jaguars because you start your starters versus your backups on offense, and you're going to end up struggling. That's just what it's going to be. So we'll see what happens. My realistic expectations is the defense looks fine. The offense doesn't look great. And people are going to worry about that. I'm telling you, don't. There's nobody out there, unless the offensive line looks bad, that there's really to worry about outside of Roman Wilson. Gregory Collins, what's the odds of the new tackle beating Broderick? And also, are the Steelers likely to pick up a wide receiver that is significant at any point? Love the show. Appreciate it. Excuse me. I think that it opens the door for a week 3 through week 10 benching, somewhere in that ballpark. Somewhere in the Steelers gave every opportunity they possibly could to Broderick Jones, and it is time finally to move on, because he just isn't getting the job done, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have to figure it out. They have to make a change. They have to save their season and their offense. But again, I want to see this guy play first, because if he stinks, if there's a reason that he didn't get picked up till August 7th, if there's a reason that he got not renewed by the Raiders on a bad team last year, that Pete Carroll didn't want to keep him. If there are reasons for this, which there have to be, then I am a little bit worried that he's just not going to be that good, and that Dylan Cook might be the better option, frankly. So it does open the door, but it's a long way before we know how open that door actually is. Likely to pick up a wide receiver of significance at any point. I think so. I think the Steelers, if Roman does not look good by the end of the season, will go out and get somebody. They will make a move. Bo just predicted 75%. I could see that. Like, in my eyes, the Steelers have not done all of this to walk into the season and go, oh, well, we can't find a wide receiver, so be what it be, pal. No, I just don't think that's going to happen. I truly think that left tackle is a different situation where you're looking at Broderick Jones and going, we've invested so heavily into this guy. You didn't invest heavily into a third-round pick that didn't play last season. So if you got to move on, you'll move on. I think that there is a pretty decent chance there. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat here. Thomas traded for Jalen McMillan in Madden 26. Offense seems to be going better. I hope everybody's enjoying Madden 26. I'm very excited to get my hands on it probably next week after the preseason game. Wednesday, you know what I mean? You get a good gap between Wednesday and Thursday when the joint practices, which brings me to McMillan because, well, the Steelers are going to get a first and very formal look at Jalen McMillan on the field next weekend and in Thursday in practice. And you best believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers and their scouting department and Omar Khan are going to be watching the wide receivers saying, this is a loaded room. Is there an opportunity for us to add anybody here? And if there is, they might. So I don't know if it would happen. I like Jalen McMillan. I think he's a very talented wide receiver. The Steelers are going to get very up close and personal to him next week. And what comes of it, I don't know yet, but I do think that it certainly opens the door for them to say, oh, didn't realize he looked that good, you know, and then they kind of go from there. Maybe the first ever pregame trade where a guy has to switch sidelines for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know if that's ever happened, but, you know, we'll find out. Shout out to Dustin becoming a member. Can't thank you enough, my friend. Make sure to call into the call-in show on Wednesday. Really appreciate all you guys, man. And one more time, just want to give a shout out to Bo to make sure that you guys go follow him at college2pro.com. That's the number 2, college2pro.com. God of Thunder, where's Jacob? Jacob had a personal situation to deal with the last 2 days. We are sending our love to good old Jacob, but he'll be good back writing tomorrow on the podcast Monday. Everything's good, and we'll be trucking. But you know, we always love Jacob. He'll be back for sure. Gregory Collins, is there a shot Will Howard could actually compete for the starting job next year or year after? Everybody gets very mad at me when I say this, you know, and like they do. They just get very, very mad about it. But it's not a 0% chance, I think it's very, very unlikely that he does, you know, and I don't make those decisions. I think that's where people get tied up in this, is that I get, you know, a lot of people constantly, you know, I get people that come up to me. I get people that slide in the DMs. Like everybody wants me to convince the Steelers to give him a shot. I can't do that, you know, and not having a preseason, I think, kills a lot of momentum towards him being able to showcase, I'm going to be that guy. You got to give me an opportunity. And the Steelers aren't going to say, you know, we're not going to draft a quarterback next year so that we can see what Will Howard does. No, if Will Howard came out into the preseason this year, balled out and looked incredible, different situation. But I think because of that, because he's not going to play, it really does. Like, it really hinders any shot he's actually got to eventually being the starter of the Pittsburgh Steelers, unless something crazy happens. You know, you draft a guy next year and he sucks. He's just really, really bad, and Will looks good. Maybe Will gets an opportunity, maybe he makes the most of it, you know, but that's a freak occurrence, and you can't predict those things. But that would be, in my eyes, the next realistic opportunity he has to becoming the Pittsburgh Steelers starter at some point during his career. Derek, how much playing time is the starting O-line getting this weekend? Sidebar, Calvin Austin III goes for 1,200 this year. He's wide receiver 1. Look, I'll tell you this. I love, and you know, anybody who's been here long enough knows Calvin Austin, first player we ever had on the show. Big fan of Calvin Austin. I really very much so enjoy seeing him in the locker room, talking to him just about life and family and everything else. So shout out to CA3. That's my dude. Would love to see him go for big numbers this year. Would love to see him go for big numbers this year. How much playing time will the offensive line get this weekend? I think they get a quarter. I think they get a full quarter, and then they'll get benched. And then next week, I don't expect many of them to play at all. So I would say they get just about the first quarter. Can't guarantee the whole thing, but I would say a good chunk of it. Greg, I'm a lifelong fan and have taken my son to a game every year for the last 5 years, but not this year. When is the me money going to end? It's time for a reality check in sports. I kind of went on a rant about this yesterday. My thoughts on the situation is that social media has grown so much and we have such instant access to all of this that it's just expanded and exploded. You know what I mean? It used to be, even before, like when media was really heavy and you could get all the content and news that you wanted online instantly. It was not, you had to look for it. You know what I mean? Cam Hayward having a hold in that, and people get so mad at me for this. I've gotten so many people yelling at me. I don't know why, about Cam Hayward being on the sideline and like everybody not picking it up. And I'm like, dude, he's a 36-year-old. Okay. You go back 10 years ago, whatever, however long it's been. 10 years ago, a 36-year-old standing on the sidelines, fully dressed, doing individual drills, and then not doing anything else during practice is not alarming because he's a 36-year-old. You know, like Cam Hayward should not be participating in team drills like TJ Watt's not participating in team drills. Like that's just, it shouldn't be a thing. It should not be a thing. He plays a very physical position and you want him for the full season at 36 years old. That wouldn't have been a story and you'd have to look for it and it'd be on ESPN. But if you didn't catch ESPN, you'd never know. You have no idea. So I think the instant ability to see the news and for that news to explode everywhere, that causes a lot of rift, you know, that makes everything a little bit more dramatic. Both sides, not saying the fan side. I mean, the team and the player side. Like guys like Cam in this situation are able to sit down and use that to their advantage to make things much bigger than they've ever been. You know what I mean? Like it's no longer a private situation. It's a, hey, make sure you blow this up. You know what I mean? Put this on social media because we're not talking about it enough. That's what it becomes. So I think that's the problem with it. And on the player side of it, that's the problem with it. And I'm always pro player, but I do think that that their ability to make things so big in these contract negotiations makes everything so much louder. That's my thoughts. Too many hurt at practice. Howard hurt means he might follow in Rudolph's path. Yeah, like that's been my prediction for Will Howard the whole time. Is I see him as a lifelong backup quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers who develops a really good like relationship in the city of Pittsburgh and maybe from time to time gets an opportunity, but that's all he is, you know, like that's how I view Will Howard currently. I hope that one day he surprises me because like at the same time, I'll be honest, like I really like Will. I think he's a good dude. I think he's very professional and mature. And I like him. I want to root for him. He's somebody you want to root for, but just speaking realistically, you know, I've always seen him as a long-term Mason Rudolph. And I think him not getting a preseason just makes that so much difficult to surpass. Gregory Collins, trade the house for Jeremiah Smith. Him and DK equals fire. Is Jeremiah coming out? I think in 2027 he's coming out. I don't think he could come out this year unless I'm totally wrong there. I mean, Jeremiah Smith is a freak, man. He's an absolute freak. I think him, Ryan Williams, like I'd go get either of them and feel really good about the wide receiver position for them. I'd sign him to an extension year 2. I'd be like, all right, here you go. Here's your rookie deal. Oh, you also want $25-30 million a year? Here you go. Because in 5 years, you're going to be worth $75 million a year. Have a good time. So I love Jeremiah Smith. The dude's a freak. I actually talked to Will about him and he just like, he's like, I can't like, he's the ultimate Jeremiah's down there somewhere. He'll figure it out, you know, type of guy. And that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Keeping it trucking again. Maddie, so what? We're going to throw a first-round rookie out there next year just because of where he was picked. Rather have someone who's learned under a Hall of Famer than a first-round rookie who has no experience. Again, you know, I think and I've said this a couple of times, in the NFL, it's a very political game. It's always been a political game, and Will could look great, but at the end of the day, not many teams do what the 49ers did with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. And even that, it took an injury before they actually admitted that they have to do it, because Kyle Shanahan, I mean, you could go back to the ESPN stuff, the behind the scenes stuff where he talks about it. And he said it multiple times. Like, I knew in minicamp and OTAs that Brock Purdy was the better quarterback, but we couldn't bench our first round quarterback. Like, politics is a real thing in the NFL. And it'll frankly never go away, unfortunately, which makes it very difficult for guys like Will Howard. Pittsburgh Hornets, how many snaps do you think Broderick will play this weekend? I don't think a lot. It plays less than the rest of the starting offensive line. I could see Broderick playing a series and then they pulling him off to make sure the groin's good. But I don't think that he plays as much as the rest of this starting offensive line just because of the groin injury. Another one for Pittsburgh Hornets here. Do you think that they are done adding people until week 2? If not, who do you think they look to add? I do think that they're done for right now. Week 2 of the preseason is what I think you mean by this. I do think they're done for right now. Come Monday, things will change. But we are hitting a place, where guys are going to become available or more available that we didn't expect to be available. And that's going to change a lot of things. So we are kind of coming into this one wide receiver on Sunday morning is now rumored to be on the trade block, just like the Cam Hayward, Chris Boswell wants more money thing. These surprise reports are going to start coming out, and we're going to get close to the this guy's available, go get him type of atmosphere for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Carl, mean cup of Joe, green bean salad. I'm getting real good at that. Spackler, new t-shirt idea. Either iron sharpens Aaron and picture of our vets plus Aaron, or Aaron sharpens iron and it's Rodgers plus our young receivers and backs. This one's fantastic, actually. And I might actually have to pull this one off. Although if you go down to the Strip District and you look at all the creepy Aaron Rodgers stuff, his face, man, is weird. It's very, very weird, to be honest. It's a little bit creepy. And the like Aaron's Mr. Rogers neighborhood stuff, like it's almost Aaron's face, but it's not. And it spooks me, man. It spooks me. Maddie, once again, do you think Waddy Black sees first team reps during the regular season games? No, definitely not during the regular season unless he gets injured. Derek Harmon looks incredible. Keanu Benton looks great. Cam Hayward is still there. Like, there's just no room for him. But becoming like the number 2 off the bench for any of those positions, I think is what's most likely to happen. And that's super exciting, because that means in a year or two, you could at some point, move on from Cam Hayward and bump Keanu over and then make Derek Harmon your other and Waddy Black in the middle. But I think for right now, he's just a backup, a very exciting one, but just a backup. God of Thunder, will Roman get a lot of snaps tomorrow? I do think that Roman gets quite a bit of snaps tomorrow. I think he plays pretty much the first full half for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then the backups come in. But yeah, I'm very excited. And at the same time, I really hope he succeeds, because I think Roman's got talent, and I'm always rooting for pro player, and we're hoping for that. Maddie, once again here, there's a reason why they haven't added another wide receiver. They know more than they let out. When do we start trusting that Khan knows what he's doing? I definitely trust Khan to know what he's doing, but I think they are looking for a little wide receiver. Omar Khan never seems to tell you exactly what's on his mind. And sometimes he tells you the opposite of what's on his mind. Sometimes he says things like, we have so much faith in Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin, and we're not going to trade George Pickens. Sometimes he says the opposite of what's on his mind. So I hear what you're saying here. I trust Khan for sure. And that's why I think that there's a little something sitting somewhere that I'm excited for. Greg, when do players put ticket prices out of reach for average blue collar fans? That's honestly, it's not players. And I hear where you're coming from. But that's TV. That's that kind of stuff. The TV, the salary cap goes up by the league's amount of money that they generate, like not publicly, but like collectively, instead of privately. So it's different things. But I agree with you. Ticket prices will always go up. And it is annoying. It's definitely upsetting. Coleslaw, what's up, AST Nation? Shout out to Jacob and the picnic pack salad. Shout out. Maddie, if Roman signs these next 3 games, will he be moved up the depth chart? For sure. He's got an opportunity to become wide receiver 3 100%. And if he balls out these next 3 days, which he's had a couple of good days of practice, not getting anybody excited, but he's got a couple of good days of practice, then yeah, I think he becomes wide receiver 3 here. Pittsburgh Hornets, John Mader at OU has had a great camp and might be an all-star this year. Do you think he might be a starter next year for us? I don't know, man. To be honest with you, is he eligible? He's got to be eligible to come out of college this year. I believe he is. Is he? Yeah, redshirt junior. Wow, he's a redshirt junior already. Oh, he played at Washington. I forgot he played at Washington, or Washington State. Yeah, I mean, I look at those mid-round guys, him, Fernando Mendoza, like they're gonna be sitting there. Drew Aller is gonna be one of those names. I'm not as excited about that one. They'll be sitting there right in that 10 to 15 range, and I do think that they have a lot of possibility. But I think the Steelers, we are a long way from knowing exactly who they are in 2026 and who they're looking for in 2026. Too many hurt to practice. Will we see YA Black and Gold this weekend? Yeah, YA Black's going to play a ton, and he's going to be a stud. I'm very excited to see him. He's very high on my list of guys that I have my eyes on, because I just am so... I mean, like, I just think he's got so much potential. I think he's still got to figure it out. I think he's got to get a little bit more physical, be able to use his size a little bit more. But, man, he is so good at finding or finding the football and making sure that his hands are up. And I just want to see him. I want to see him build off of that for sure. I definitely want to see him build off of that. Keeping it trucking here. Got a Thunder. Do you think DK asks for more money next season? No, I think DK is pretty set. $33 million a year is pretty good price range for a wide receiver right now. And I think DK is going to be good for the next couple of years. His contract also goes up every year. So by the end of it, it's like $40 million a year. So it kind of worked its way out to kind of average out what the market will be by the time it's all said and done. All right, Pittsburgh. Brian here. What's the word on Harmon's injury? Missed it. If you covered it already, don't know what it exactly was. He returned to practice a day later, which is great. Must have been just some bumps and bruises associated with play, as Mike Tomlin likes to call it. And I think he's expected to play tomorrow. I think he'll play a good chunk of snaps, like almost the full first quarter. And I'm very excited for it. Maddie, what about Trey Palmer? They can get a look at him next week as well. They definitely can, and they called about him last week, which is not last week, earlier in the summer, excuse me, and that's very exciting. So I would say he's definitely a name on there as well. I'm not as sold on Trey Palmer. I think he's a younger Scotty Miller, but Jalen McMillan's up there too. But that's exactly the point, is they're going to get an eye on all these guys, and I bet you you put two GMs in a building together, you best believe they're going to talk a little bit of something for sure. Enigma After Dark. Noah, what's more likely? Preseason shows us Broderick will be a solid left tackler. Roman Wilson has wide receiver 3 locked up. Man, this is a very difficult question. What's more likely here? Okay, I'm not predicting either of these because I wouldn't. But what's more likely? I would say Roman locks. Oh, man. I would say Roman locks up wide receiver 3. I would. What's more likely? That's my what's more likely. I don't feel good about it, but Broderick just doesn't look good, man. And I like Broderick. I want to root for Broderick. I want Broderick to be awesome. But if I had to guess here, I'd go, what's more likely? Roman Wilson. Coleslaw, hey, Cam, you're either a Steeler or you're not. Oh, my gosh. Savage. So savage. That's the thing is I just don't think Cam, and maybe he knows by now, is getting the reaction that he thought he once was. And I think that's, notable. Definitely notable. Derek, does anyone know why? Oh, I apologize. We already did this one. Tommy B, is it possible that Calvin Austin is part of a trade negotiation for a legit wide receiver 2, and that's why he's injured because they are protecting him? No, I don't think that's the case. I think it is an actual injury. I do agree with he could be part of negotiations. Like that could be a thing that happens. Wouldn't rule that out. Don't think that's why he's missing practice. But I do think that that's, if teams are like, yeah, give me Calvin Austin and we'll give you Terry McLaurin for a 3rd round pick. Okay. Like, sounds good. Here you go. I think that would happen. And I don't think it's that, but I do think that, that would be on the table. Pittsburgh Hornets here. What's the best kickoff thing you've seen in this? Oh, knockoff thing you've seen in the Strip District. This is a great question. The Mr. Rogers neighborhood ones definitely stand out because they are like so hideous and crazy. Man, dude, that's really tough. It's like it's the most boring knockoff gear ever. Like that's the Strip District's awesome. And I got a little nephew that I'll have to bring home. His dad's a Cowboys fan. His mom's a Steelers fan. So I always try to make sure that I'm bringing home a t-shirt or something for him. And I it's the perfect for that because they're just so boring and bland. But the Rogers neighborhood might be it, man. Does Troy Polamalu count? I mean, he's hilarious, man. But there is a knockoff Troy Polamalu who hangs out in the Strip District sometimes. He also shows up at games. Dude's famous, but the first time I saw him, I was starstruck. So he was interviewing somebody. I forget who it was at training camp practice the other day. He was there. But the Mr. Rogers things, for sure. The Mr. Rogers things. Maddie, who are your top 3 quarterbacks for the Steelers next year? Not top 3 to go. Who could we actually grab? Fernando Mendoza is definitely up there. I think the dude is a stud. I think he's got so much growth in front of him. I'm very excited to see what he can do. Number 2, I think, is Lenora Sellers. Less of I think he can climb more than Fernando Mendoza. I think he could be a top 2-3 pick in the draft. If that's the case, the Steelers don't have an opportunity for him. But if he sits there in that 5 to 10 range, I think the Steelers could try and go get him. I think he's the best of the group. I think he looks fantastic. If Arch doesn't come out, he's my favorite quarterback in the draft. But depending on who comes out and how good everybody looks, I think that, he might find himself 5 to 10. Drew Aller's number 3. Very realistic possibility. Could sit there at 15 and be picked. The Steelers could look at him like Bo Nix. It would stink. But I do think that that's very much so there as Steelers ended up with Drew Aller. And that's the case, especially answering to you, Maddie. If it is Drew Aller versus Will Howard, I'm saying wait it out because I am not a Drew Aller fan. I'm not. The other two I'm taking 100 times over Will Howard. But Drew Aller, I just don't. I don't see it in him. I don't. But I think he would be the least surprising name that I think the Steelers would go out and land in the first round. All right. With that said, guys, I'm heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers play some football tomorrow. I'm so fired up about it. Like I said, I'll have the walkover in the morning. I'm super pumped about it. And then hopefully, before the game, I'll be able to jump on a quick live stream. Can't make any promises. Just going to hope that I can to come on and talk to you guys. Is Jacob still wearing a hoodie at training camp? He's not. He's very smart, and he takes an extra t-shirt, which is something I don't do when I come home. And every day my wife goes, don't hug me, go shower. So Shout out to the man, the smarter man than I, Jacob Punturi. We'll see him back here on Monday. Like Jacob, I'm excited to see you guys as well. I hope everybody enjoys some Pittsburgh Steelers football. And as always, another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.